Myra lay awake in her small bedroom, her blanket pulled up to her chin. The clock on the wall ticked softly, counting the minutes of a night that felt far too long. Outside the window, the town was quiet. Only the rustle of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl moved in the silence. Myra's mother worked late shifts, and sometimes Myra wished the night would hurry and turn into morning. She rolled onto her side, staring at the moonlight shining across the floor. That was when she heard it, soft, gentle, and strange. A whistle. Not the kind of whistle from the kettle in the kitchen, not even the sharp whistle of a referee at school. This sound was low and silver, almost like the sigh of a flute. It floated through the night air, soft enough that Myra wondered if she had imagined it. Then she heard it again. Wee-oh. Myra sat up. Her window was closed, but the sound was so clear, as if it were calling her name. She slipped out of bed, her bare feet touching the cool wooden floor. Slowly, she pushed the curtain aside. Her eyes widened. Running right across the dark sky, just above the rooftops, was a glowing track, shining silver like moonlit ice. And moving along that track was a train. Its carriages sparkled with golden windows, each one glowing like a lantern. The whistle came again, and the front of the train turned, as if looking right at Myra's window. She pressed her hands against the glass, her heart thumping. She had never seen anything like it. A train, in the sky? The whistle blew a third time. This time, it felt less like a sound and more like an invitation. Myra reached for the latch and opened her window. A cool breeze drifted in, carrying with it the smell of rain and something sweet, like vanilla. To her amazement, a small platform was forming outside her window, woven from strands of starlight. It glowed just enough for her to see the outline of a tiny staircase leading up to it. Myra's breath caught. Should she? Could she? She looked back at her room, her bed, her stuffed rabbit sitting quietly on the pillow, the half-finished drawing on her desk. Then she looked again at the train, golden windows waiting, steam curling like ribbons into the sky. She whispered to herself, "If I don't go, I'll never know." Gathering her courage, Myra stepped onto the glowing staircase. The starlight felt solid beneath her feet, soft like moss yet strong as stone. Step by step, she climbed until she reached the little platform. The train slowed. Its wheels made no noise, only a shimmer, as if time itself bent to let it pass. A tall figure stood at the open door of the nearest carriage. He wore a long coat made of smoke and stars, and his hat tilted low over glowing eyes. With a gentle bow, he extended a hand. "Good evening, young traveler," he said, his voice deep and kind, echoing like distant thunder. "Welcome aboard the Midnight Dream Train." Myra's heart raced. She reached out, placing her small hand in his. His hand felt cool, like holding a piece of polished glass. With one step, she entered the carriage. The door closed softly behind her, and the train gave a gentle hum as it moved forward along the glowing track. Through the window, Myra saw her town drifting away beneath her. The rooftops shrank, the lamplights dimmed, and soon only the endless stars surrounded her. The conductor tipped his hat, his eyes glimmering. "Your journey begins here. Keep your ticket close, for every dream needs one." Myra opened her mouth to ask what he meant, but just then, a golden card appeared in her hand, warm and shining with tiny moving stars. She gasped softly, staring at it. The conductor smiled. "Listen carefully, young traveler. The dream train will take you to many places. But remember, Every carriage holds more than it seems. Be gentle, be curious, and most of all, be brave. The whistle sounded again, longer this time, echoing into the night sky. Myra clutched the glowing ticket and sat by the window. The stars outside seemed to lean closer, as if they too were curious about her. The train gathered speed, its golden carriages stretching across the heavens. Myra pressed her face against the glass, her eyes shining. For the first time in many nights, she didn't feel lonely at all. She felt like she was exactly where she belonged, at the very beginning of an adventure. And so, with the hum of wheels on starlight and the whisper of dreams in the air, the midnight dream train carried Myra into the unknown. The carriage Myra entered was quiet, filled with a soft glow that seemed to breathe with the rhythm of the train. The seats were not made of wood or velvet but of something stranger, woven threads of moonlight that shifted colors when she touched them. One moment they looked silver, the next they shimmered pink, and then soft blue like the morning sky. Myra held her glowing card close to her chest. It hummed gently, like a lullaby she couldn't quite remember. She ran her finger over the surface, and tiny sparks of light leapt from the ticket, spinning into the air like fireflies. The tall conductor of smoke and starlight stood at the far end of the carriage, his long coat brushing the floor as he moved. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small bell. When he rang it, the sound was not like a normal chime. It was deep and warm, like the first note of a song. "Attention, travelers," his voice carried softly, yet every corner of the carriage heard it. "The ticket check begins. Hold your dreams close." Other passengers shifted in their seats. Myra noticed them for the first time. A girl with braids made of golden ribbon, an old man whose beard looked like clouds, a boy clutching a stuffed bear that blinked and yawned, and even a cat wearing spectacles, reading a newspaper printed with shining stars. They each held their own ticket, each one glowing differently. Some sparkled like diamonds, some shimmered like rivers, some pulsed like tiny hearts. The conductor approached Myra. He bent slightly, his eyes glowing beneath the brim of his hat. "Your ticket, young traveler." Myra lifted her card nervously. "I don't know how I got it. It just appeared." "Of course," the conductor said with a knowing smile. "The dream train gives each traveler a ticket of their own making. It is born from your heart. Look closely, and you'll see what it truly holds." Myra tilted the card. At first it was only golden light. Then shapes appeared, little drawings, soft and glowing. She saw her bedroom window, her stuffed rabbit, her mother's face smiling though tired, and stars. So many stars, like tiny promises across the sky. Her chest grew warm. The conductor nodded slowly. "Yes. A dreamer cannot ride without love in their pocket." He stamped the ticket with his bell, though the sound was not a clang but a gentle whoomph, like clouds clapping. Instantly, Myra's ticket grew brighter, and she felt courage stir in her chest. "Keep it safe," the conductor said. "The train may test you, but your ticket will guide you." He moved on to the next passenger, and Myra leaned back in her seat, staring at the glowing card. The train gave a soft shudder as it passed through a ring of stars. Outside the window, the world turned different again. Where once there had been a sea of stars, now there stretched a station made entirely of glass. The platform glittered like ice, but warm steam drifted from lanterns shaped like teapots. On the walls of the station, shimmering letters spelled out, "Next stop, the carriage of pillows." The passengers stirred with excitement. Myra felt her heart skip. Pillows. What could that mean? The whistle blew, long and low. The doors slid open, and the smell of lavender and fresh cotton filled the air. One by one, the passengers stepped into the next carriage, their tickets glowing brighter as they passed through the door. Myra held hers tight, a little nervous but also curious. She followed the ribbon-haired girl and the yawning stuffed bear, stepping into the warm glow beyond. The door closed softly behind her. The ticket in her hand pulsed once, twice, as if saying, "You are ready." And the dream train rolled onward, carrying its travelers deeper into the heart of night. The door opened with a sigh, and Myra stepped inside. At once, she was surrounded by softness. The entire carriage was made of pillows, walls stacked with fluffy cushions, seats puffed up like marshmallows, even the ceiling draped with hanging bolsters that swayed gently with the motion of the train. The air smelled faintly of lavender and fresh linen. Every step Myra took sank her feet into a floor so soft it was like walking on clouds. She let out a laugh before she realized it, her voice muffled by the thick, cozy air. But then something curious happened. The pillows began to whisper. At first it was a faint rustle, like feathers shifting in the wind. Then the sounds grew into words. Each pillow seemed to have its own voice. Myra bent closer to one and heard a tiny whisper. Dream of flying, dream of soaring, dream of skies without end. She moved to another and heard, dream of kindness, dream of laughter, dream of friends who never leave. Her eyes grew wide. Each pillow was whispering a dream, soft and gentle, like a secret too tender to shout. Other passengers were already sitting, resting their heads against the pillows. As they did, their breathing slowed, and a glow spread across their faces as if the dreams were wrapping them in warmth. The boy with the stuffed bear curled up against a round pillow that whispered, "Dream of comfort, dream of safety." The bear yawned, its little eyes closing as if it too were drifting into sleep. Myra hugged one of the smaller pillows. It felt cool at first, then slowly warmed in her arms, as if it were listening to her heart. The whisper reached her ear, "Dream of mothers who come home early, dream of gentle hands brushing your hair." Her eyes stung suddenly, though she wasn't sure why. She pressed the pillow tighter, and it purred softly, like a cat. A shadow fell across her. She looked up to see the conductor, tall as ever, but softer here in the carriage of pillows. His smoke and starlight coat seemed less sharp, more like drifting mist. He leaned down and spoke gently. "Each pillow is made from a dream someone once gave away. You may borrow them, but choose carefully. Too many dreams at once, and you may forget your own." Myra blinked, startled. "Forget my own? How?" The conductor tapped the golden ticket still glowing in her hand. "This is your anchor. It remembers you, even if you drift too far. Hold it close." Myra nodded and clutched her ticket. She felt the hum against her palm, steady and kind. As the train rolled on, the carriage swayed with a lullaby rhythm. Myra lay back against the pillow she held, her eyes closing. For a moment, she saw herself in a meadow of tall grass, her mother laughing beside her, the two of them chasing fireflies together. It felt so real she almost cried out, but then the whistle of the train sounded, low and deep, pulling her gently back. The conductor rang his bell again, the sound echoing like a heartbeat. "Travelers, we arrive soon at the next wonder. Gather your courage." The pillows rustled, their whispers fading. Passengers stirred awake, hugging their chosen pillows one last time before setting them down. Myra held hers a little longer, then slowly placed it back where she found it. The pillow gave one last soft whisper, "Come back anytime." She smiled and rose to her feet. The doors slid open, and a sweet smell drifted in, rich, sugary, and irresistible. On the walls ahead, letters sparkled. Next stop, the carriage of cakes. Myra's stomach fluttered. She wasn't sure if it was excitement or hunger. The moment Myra stepped through the door, her mouth filled with sweetness. The air inside the new carriage smelled of sugar, butter, and warm vanilla, like stepping into the heart of a bakery. Her eyes widened. The entire carriage was made of cake. The seats were layers of sponge and cream, the walls stacked with chocolate squares, and the ceiling dripped with tiny strings of sugar glass that glittered like icicles. Even the floor was lined with a soft, golden sponge that bounced under her steps. Passengers gasped and laughed. The ribbon-haired girl plucked a cherry from the wall and giggled as it popped into sparkles. The old man stroked his beard of clouds and shook his head, muttering, "Marvelous, marvelous." Even the cat with spectacles tucked away his newspaper and began nibbling on a sugar rail. Myra couldn't help herself. She reached out and touched a nearby seat. Her fingers came away dusted with powdered sugar. She licked them carefully, and it was the best cake she had ever tasted. Sweet, fluffy, and warm, as if it had just come out of the oven. But as she licked her fingers, she noticed something. The cake seat sagged a little, sinking under its own weight. She frowned. The conductor appeared beside her, his starlight eyes glowing brighter here among the sweets. "Be cautious, young traveler. The carriage of cakes is generous, but greedy hands make it weak. Eat too much, and the whole carriage may sink." Myra blinked, startled. "Sink?" He nodded. "Dreams built on sweetness alone cannot carry you far." Myra looked around. Some passengers were already pulling chunks from the walls, laughing with their mouths full. A boy climbed the sugar stairs to the ceiling and snapped off a shining sugar strand. The carriage gave a low groan, as though warning them. Myra held her golden ticket tight. It pulsed softly, humming against her palm. She remembered the conductor's words, "Your ticket will guide you." She took a careful step forward and noticed something curious. On the far wall, glowing letters appeared, shimmering faintly under a layer of frosting. "Balance keeps the carriage steady." She turned to the others. "Stop eating so much. Look." She pointed to the letters. "It says balance is the key. If we all take too much, the carriage will fall." The passengers froze. The boy on the sugar stairs looked down guiltily, crumbs in his hands. The cat licked its whiskers, pushing its glasses higher. Slowly, one by one, they set down what they had taken. The groan of the carriage eased. The walls straightened. The cake floor seemed firmer underfoot. The conductor gave Myra a small nod of approval. "Well done. The dream train does not only bring wonders, it tests wisdom, too. You have passed this one." Myra felt a swell of pride in her chest. She glanced down at her ticket and saw that it glowed a little brighter than before, as if rewarding her choice. The whistle blew softly. The air shifted, carrying away the sugar scent and replacing it with something lighter, like soap bubbles and fresh rain. The letters on the wall flickered once more. Next stop, the carriage of bubbles. Myra grinned, brushing cake crumbs from her hands. "Bubbles sound safer than cake," she whispered, though her heart buzzed with excitement. The doors slid open, and glowing bubbles drifted into the carriage, popping gently against her cheeks. Myra laughed and stepped forward, ready for whatever the dream train would bring next. The moment Myra stepped inside, she was surrounded by light. Bubbles filled the entire carriage, thousands of them, floating gently through the air. They drifted like glowing lanterns, bumping into one another with soft pops that left trails of sparkling mist. The walls, the ceiling, even the handrails were hidden behind shimmering spheres of every size. Some were as tiny as raindrops, while others were as big as Myra's head. Each bubble carried something inside. Myra leaned closer to one and gasped. Inside the bubble was a tiny glowing picture of a meadow, where children ran through tall grass. The bubble drifted past her face, and she almost reached for it. Another floated by, showing a deep blue sea with dolphins leaping through the waves. Still another held the image of a cozy fireplace, its flames crackling warmly. "These are dream bubbles," said the conductor, appearing at Myra's side. His smoky coat seemed to shine faintly, reflecting all the colors around them. "Every bubble is a dream someone once dreamed. They drift until they are ready to be lived again." Myra's eyes widened. Can I touch them?" The conductor's glowing eyes softened. "You may. But remember, when a bubble pops, the dream escapes, and you will step inside it for a while. Choose carefully." Myra hesitated, watching the bubbles swirl around her like stars underwater. The ribbon-haired girl giggled as she pressed her hand to one. Pop! It burst in a shower of glitter, and suddenly she was standing inside the bubble's picture, twirling in a ballroom of glass chandeliers. A moment later, the bubble closed again, and she returned, her cheeks glowing with joy. The old man with the cloud beard touched another. Pop! He vanished into the bubble and reappeared laughing, holding a teacup as if he'd been at a great feast. Myra bit her lip. She wanted to try, but which dream should she choose? Her golden ticket warmed in her hand. She looked down and saw faint letters glowing across it. "Follow your heart." A small bubble drifted near. It was weaker than the others, trembling as if it might burst on its own. Inside was a picture of a garden. Myra saw flowers glowing under moonlight, and a woman kneeling in the dirt, smiling as she planted seeds. The woman's face looked strangely familiar. Her chest tightened. "Mom," she whispered. Without thinking, Myra reached out. The bubble popped, and in a blink she was standing in the garden. The air smelled of soil and night jasmine. Fireflies hovered above the flowers. Her mother knelt nearby, planting tiny glowing seeds. "Myra," her mother said gently, though her voice was faint, like an echo. "Every dream begins as a seed. Take care of yours." Myra reached out, wanting to hug her. But before she could, the dream faded, and she was back in the bubble carriage, her hand still lifted, her eyes damp. The conductor bowed his head slightly. "Dreams often bring us what we long for most. Do not be sad. It means your heart is awake." Myra clutched her golden ticket, which now pulsed brighter than ever. She wiped her eyes and nodded. The bubbles began to gather at the far end of the carriage, forming an archway that shimmered like glass. The whistle blew softly, and letters appeared on the wall. "Next stop, the carriage of books." Myra smiled through her tears. "Books," she whispered. "That sounds like home." And with the glow of bubbles fading behind her, she stepped forward into the next wonder of the dream train. The door opened, and Myra gasped. She had expected shelves and stacks, but this was something entirely different. The carriage itself was a living library. The walls curved upward like the inside of a grand dome, every inch lined with books of all colors and sizes. The air smelled of ink and warm parchment, mixed with the faint sweetness of candle wax. But the books were not silent. As the train swayed, Pages fluttered open by themselves. Words leapt off the paper, glowing letters rising into the air like tiny fireflies. They drifted around Myra, soft and warm, then settled back into other books, as if they were visiting neighbors. One book whispered, "Once upon a dream." Another sang, "A forest of stars awaits." Still another chuckled, "Do you want to hear about the dragon who loved soup?" Myra laughed, turning in a slow circle. It was as if every bedtime story she had ever heard had gathered here, waiting to be read again. Passengers wandered between the shelves. The ribbon-haired girl stretched up on tiptoe to catch a flying sentence, which tickled her nose before floating back into its book. The cat with spectacles pawed at a stack, finally settling on a thick volume titled 9 Lives and Counting. Myra ran her fingers along a row of books until one pulsed warmly under her hand. She pulled it out, and golden letters swirled across the cover. "The girl who rode the dream train." Her breath caught. "That's me." She opened the book. At once, the words lifted from the page, forming glowing shapes in the air. She saw herself climbing the staircase of starlight, stepping into the train, holding her golden ticket. Every moment was there, written before her eyes. But the story ended abruptly. The page went blank after the words, and then she entered the carriage of books. Myra's heart thudded. "It's writing itself," she whispered. The conductor appeared beside her, his smoky figure blending with the shadows of the shelves. The book carriage records every traveler's journey. It writes only what has happened. The rest waits for your choices. Myra traced the blank page with her finger. "So, my story isn't finished yet." "Not until you finish the journey," the conductor said softly. "Every dreamer must write their ending." She looked at her golden ticket. It glowed brighter, as if agreeing. Her chest filled with something between fear and excitement. She tucked the book under her arm, but the conductor shook his head gently. "The books stay here. They belong to the train. But do not worry, it will remember you." Reluctantly, Myra placed the book back on the shelf. As she did, new words began to appear at the bottom of the page, glowing faintly, and she learned that her story was still being written. The whistle blew. Passengers turned toward the door at the far end, where a misty glow spilled through. The letters on the wall shifted once more, spelling out, "Next stop, the carriage of clouds." Myra smiled, her heart lighter than before. "My story isn't finished," she whispered to herself. "It's just beginning." She followed the others toward the misty light, ready for the next carriage, ready for the next page. When Myra stepped into the next carriage, she gasped. The floor was no longer solid. Instead, soft white clouds drifted beneath her feet, firm enough to hold her but springy like giant pillows. The walls had melted away, leaving the carriage open to the sky. Starlight streamed in, and the air smelled clean, like fresh rain. Passengers laughed as they bounced gently with each step. The ribbon-haired girl floated a little higher than the rest, twirling in the air as if she weighed no more than a feather. Even the cat with spectacles purred as it drifted lazily on its back, whiskers twitching in delight. Myra knelt and scooped a piece of cloud into her hands. It was cool, damp, and soft. As she held it, the cloud began to glow with faint color, blue, then pink, then green, shifting like a rainbow trapped inside mist. The conductor's smoky figure appeared beside her, his coat trailing across the sky. "Every cloud carries a feeling," he said. "Blue for calm, yellow for joy, pink for kindness, green for hope. If you listen, you will feel what they hold." Myra pressed the glowing cloud against her chest. Her heart leapt, Warmth spread through her, like the comfort of her mother's arms after a long day. She closed her eyes and smiled. Other passengers discovered their own clouds. The old man with the beard found a golden cloud that made him laugh until tears sparkled in his eyes. The boy with the stuffed bear hugged a green cloud, whispering softly to it as if to a friend. But near the corner of the carriage, Myra noticed something different. A single cloud drifted low, darker than the others. It swirled with heavy grey, flashing faint sparks inside like tiny storms. No one else dared touch it. Myra hesitated. Her golden ticket pulsed in her hand, guiding her closer. She reached out. The moment her fingers brushed the storm cloud, her chest tightened. A rush of sadness swept over her, memories of waiting at the window, evenings alone, the ache of missing her mother. The cloud crackled, glowing darker. Myra pulled her hand back, tears stinging her eyes. "It's too heavy," she whispered. The conductor's voice was soft. "Not every feeling is light. Some clouds carry sorrow, but even sorrow is part of the sky. Without it, the stars would have no contrast to shine." Myra looked again at the storm cloud. It wasn't just frightening, it was beautiful in its own way, with its sparks of silver lightning glowing in the dark. She placed her hand on it once more, not to push it away, but to simply hold it. This time, the sadness did not crush her. It settled, deep and quiet, like rain watering the ground. The storm cloud shifted, glowing softer, until faint streaks of lavender appeared across its surface. Myra breathed out. "It feels gentler." The conductor nodded. "You've learned what many forget, young traveler. To carry sorrow is not weakness. It can teach you kindness." The whistle sounded, low and long, pulling the passengers together again. The clouds began to gather, swirling toward the far door. Letters formed across the mist, glowing pale silver. Next stop, the carriage of laughter. Myra wiped her eyes but smiled. She felt lighter, though the storm cloud's memory still rested in her chest. Maybe that was the point. Hand on her golden ticket, she stepped forward, ready for the sound of laughter waiting ahead. The door opened, and Myra was greeted by sound. Not music, not whispers. Laughter, pure and bright. It rolled through the carriage like waves of sunlight. The walls sparkled with golden light, and the seats were shaped like swings, hammocks, and seesaws that tipped and bounced with every giggle. Children of every age and kind filled the space. Some looked like Myra, others wore clothes from faraway places, and some glowed faintly, like they were made of starlight themselves. They spoke in different languages, but laughter needed no translation. It rose together in harmony, bouncing off the ceiling and filling the air with joy. Myra hesitated at the doorway. She had never been the loudest in a classroom. She liked listening more than shouting. But here, laughter surrounded her, tugging at her chest like a tide. The ribbon-haired girl waved her over, grinning. She was on a hammock with two other children, all three giggling so hard they nearly flipped out. Myra smiled nervously and took a seat on a swing nearby. The swing wobbled, and she clutched the ropes tightly. A boy next to her pointed and laughed, not unkindly, but freely, as if inviting her to laugh with him. His laughter was so infectious that Myra's own lips twitched. Then the swing tipped forward, and Myra slipped, just a little. She yelped, her eyes wide. For a heartbeat she thought she would fall. Instead, the swing bounced back, and her yelp turned into a laugh. A real laugh, bubbling up from deep inside her chest. The children cheered. Laughter burst around her, brighter than before. Myra laughed harder, and the sound joined theirs, weaving into the golden chorus. Her cheeks ached, tears sprang to her eyes, but she couldn't stop. She didn't want to. The conductor appeared at the far end of the carriage. Even his smoky form seemed lighter here, his shoulders less heavy. He lifted his hand, and a bell rang, a soft chime. But instead of quieting the laughter, the sound made it rise higher, stronger, as if the train itself was laughing along. "Laughter is a bridge," he said, though his voice was nearly drowned out. "It carries dreamers across the distances between them." Myra believed him. Sitting among strangers, she didn't feel strange at all. She felt like she belonged, like the train itself had opened its arms around her. As the laughter slowed, glowing letters shimmered in the golden air, forming at the far wall. Next stop, the carriage of shadows. The joyful light dimmed slightly, as if the train wanted to remind them that laughter and silence were part of the same song. Myra wiped her eyes, still smiling. She hugged her golden ticket to her chest, its glow steady. She knew shadows were ahead, but she felt braver now. She had laughter inside her, and that would be her light. With one last giggle, she stood and followed the others toward the waiting door. The golden glow of laughter faded as the door closed behind Myra. The next carriage was darker. The air was cooler, almost still, and the walls shimmered with faint silver like moonlight reflected on water. At first, Myra thought it was empty, but as her eyes adjusted, she saw shapes flickering across the walls and floor. Shadows. They stretched and bent with every step she took. Not only her shadow, but shadows of the other passengers as well, long, thin, and restless. The shadows moved a second too late, lagging behind as though they were not entirely connected to their owners. Myra's chest tightened. Her own shadow stretched before her, tall and wavering. She lifted her hand, and her shadow lifted too, but then it tilted its head differently, almost curious. "Hello," she whispered. To her shock, the shadow answered, its voice soft but echoing, as if it came from inside her chest. "Hello, Myra." Her knees wobbled. You can talk." The shadow nodded. Its outline rippled like smoke. "I am the part of you that lingers in silence. The worries you do not say. The fears you tuck away. I have always been here." Myra clutched her golden ticket. It pulsed faintly, its glow dimmer in the darkness. "What do you want?" "To remind you," the shadow said, stepping closer. Its edges brushed hers, cool and heavy. "That you are afraid. Afraid of being alone. Afraid your mother will always be too busy. Afraid your dreams are too small to matter." Myra's throat tightened. The words stung because they were true. She looked down, unable to speak. But then another shadow moved near, the ribbon-haired girl's shadow. It whispered her own fears. "Afraid I will never be seen." The boy with the stuffed bear's shadow whispered, "Afraid of losing what I love." Even the old man's shadow spoke, trembling, afraid of running out of time. Myra realized suddenly, every dreamer's shadow carried fears. She wasn't alone. Her golden ticket warmed again, glowing brighter. She lifted it high, and its light spilled across her shadow. For the first time, the shadow's voice softened. "I only exist because you care," it said. "Do not push me away. Carry me, and I will walk with you instead of against you." Myra took a shaky breath. She reached out her hand, and her shadow reached too. Their fingers overlapped, dark and light touching. The chill eased, replaced by a strange calm. The conductor appeared at the far door, his smoky form blending with the dimness. His eyes glowed like twin lanterns. Every traveler must face their shadow. Only then can their dream carry them forward. The whistle blew, deep and low, and the carriage of shadows trembled. The darkness thinned, and words shimmered faintly on the wall ahead. Next stop, the carriage of paintings. The door opened, spilling soft colors into the gloom. Myra looked down at her shadow one last time. It stood close, steady now, no longer lagging behind. She smiled faintly. "Let's go together." And with her golden ticket glowing in her hand, she stepped into the light of the next carriage. The moment Myra stepped through the door, she was bathed in color. This carriage was unlike anything she had seen before. The walls were covered from floor to ceiling with paintings, landscapes, portraits, swirling patterns, whole worlds captured in frames of gold, silver, and wood. But they were not still. Each painting shimmered faintly, moving like windows into living scenes. A river rippled across its canvas. Birds wheeled in a painted sky. A child waved from a portrait, her smile glowing as if she could step out at any moment. Myra's breath caught. The conductor appeared beside her, his smoky outline flickering in the rainbow light. Every dream ever drawn finds a home here. Each painting is a doorway, if you are brave enough to enter. Myra's golden ticket warmed in her hand. She looked at the nearest painting, an open meadow beneath a night sky filled with stars so bright they looked close enough to touch. She leaned closer, and her reflection melted into the canvas. With a gentle pull, the painting drew her inside. Suddenly, she stood barefoot in soft grass. The air was cool and sweet, the stars above shining brighter than she had ever seen. They swirled in patterns, forming trails like rivers of light. Myra laughed softly, spinning with her arms wide. It felt real, so real she forgot she was inside a painting. Other passengers were stepping into their own scenes. The ribbon-haired girl ran across a painting of a beach, leaving glowing footprints in the sand. The boy with the stuffed bear chased butterflies through a painted garden. Even the cat with spectacles leapt into a canvas of cushions and promptly curled up to nap. But Myra noticed one painting at the far end, darker than the rest. It showed a forest at dusk, trees tall and twisted, their shadows stretching long. Something about it tugged at her heart. Her golden ticket pulsed again, urging her forward. She hesitated. "Do I have to go in?" she whispered. The conductor's voice drifted like wind. The dreamer does not always choose the painting. Sometimes the painting chooses the dreamer. Myra touched the frame. At once, the scene shifted. The forest opened into a clearing, and at its center was an easel with a blank canvas. A brush floated above it, dripping paint that glowed like liquid moonlight. She stepped inside. The forest was quiet, almost too quiet. She approached the easel, her chest thumping. The brush hovered in the air, waiting. Her golden ticket glowed brighter, casting light on the blank canvas. Slowly, her hand lifted. The brush settled into her grip, warm and alive, as if it had been waiting for her. She pressed it to the canvas. At first, nothing happened. Then color bloomed, soft lavender, pale gold, a touch of blue. Shapes formed, a small girl, a starlit train, a glowing ticket. Myra gasped. She was painting her own story. The brush moved easily, almost guiding her hand. She painted her laughter, her fears, even the storm cloud she had touched. The more she painted, the lighter her chest felt, as if the colors themselves were lifting her heart. When the painting was finished, the canvas glowed so brightly it lit the whole forest. Myra stepped back, and the frame around the painting closed like a door. The next moment, she was back in the carriage, the brush gone, the canvas sealed among the glowing walls. Her painting now hung there, alongside all the others. The conductor's eyes shone softly. "You have given your dream a shape. It will remain here, waiting for you, or for another dreamer who needs it." Myra clutched her golden ticket. It was warm, steady, strong. She looked at her painting one last time, feeling proud and shy all at once. The whistle blew. Colors rippled across the walls, gathering at the far door. Letters shimmered, spelling out, "Next stop, the carriage of songs." Myra smiled, her heart humming as if already singing. She was ready for music. The door opened, and sound flowed out like a river. This carriage was filled not with colors or pillows, but with music. Notes drifted in the air, glowing softly as they floated around the passengers. Some spun like ribbons, some sparkled like tiny bells. The walls shimmered with strings, as though the whole carriage itself were an enormous instrument waiting to be played. Myra stepped inside, her eyes wide. Every footstep made a quiet chime, as if the floor itself was tuned. When she exhaled, the air carried her breath into a gentle hum. At the center of the carriage sat a boy, younger than Myra, holding a small wooden flute. His clothes were plain, his eyes shy, and yet the sound of his playing filled the whole carriage. The tune was simple at first, like raindrops on leaves, then it grew into something larger, waves rising and falling, a lullaby that made the air shimmer. Passengers settled quietly, listening. Even the cat with spectacles removed its glasses and curled up, purring to the rhythm. The ribbon-haired girl swayed back and forth, her eyes dreamy. Myra clutched her golden ticket. It pulsed with each note, beating in time with the song. She sat down and closed her eyes. For a moment, she was back in her bedroom, hearing her mother hum softly while folding laundry. The sound of music and love was the same. It filled the quiet places inside her heart. The boy stopped playing. The notes lingered, glowing faintly before dissolving into the air. He looked around nervously. "I'm not very good," he whispered. Myra shook her head quickly. It was beautiful. The boy's cheeks flushed. "Would you sing with me?" Myra froze. She had never sung in front of anyone before. Her voice always felt too small, too shaky, but the boy's eyes were hopeful, and her golden ticket warmed, urging her forward. She swallowed hard and nodded. The boy lifted the flute again, playing a soft tune. Myra took a breath. At first her voice trembled, but as the notes wrapped around her, she found courage. She sang quietly, then louder, her voice weaving into the melody like thread into fabric. The sound grew. Other passengers joined in, humming, clapping softly, adding their voices. Soon the whole carriage was alive with music, every note glowing brighter until the walls shone like sunrise. When the song ended, the carriage fell into a hush. Then applause erupted, gentle but full of warmth. The boy smiled shyly at Myra. "Thank you. I've never played with someone before." Myra's heart glowed. "Me neither." The conductor appeared near the far door, his smoky coat rippling like the rhythm of the song. "Music binds dreamers together. Where words cannot reach, songs will carry. The whistle blew, long and low, and the glowing letters formed once more. Next stop, the carriage of mirrors. Myra held her golden ticket close. Her reflection would soon be waiting, and she wondered, what would she see? The new carriage gleamed like crystal. Every wall, every panel, even the ceiling was made of mirrors. They reflected not just the passengers' faces, but the glow of the train itself, multiplying light into endless directions. Myra stepped in cautiously, her footsteps echoing. At once, dozens of reflections stared back at her, some exact, some slightly different, as though each mirror had its own idea of who she was. The ribbon-haired girl squealed as she spun, watching 100 versions of herself laugh together. The cat with spectacles adjusted its glasses in front of a dozen copies, each one slightly crooked. Even the old man stroked his beard and chuckled as his mirrored selves did the same. But Myra's eyes were drawn to one mirror at the far end. Unlike the others, it didn't show her as she was. Instead, it showed her taller, older, her hair longer, her shoulders steady. She looked strong, confident, not afraid to speak. Her breath caught. The conductor's smoky figure appeared beside her, his eyes glowing like lanterns. The carriage of mirrors does not show the dreamer's face as it is. It shows the dreams of who they might become. Myra touched the glass. Her reflection smiled back, calm and brave. For a moment, she felt a warmth in her chest, as if that version of herself reached through the glass to steady her trembling hands. But when she turned, another mirror caught her eye. This one was darker. It showed her slumped, her eyes heavy, her shoulders weighed down. She looked small, faded, as if she had given up before she even began. Myra shivered. I don't want to be her. The conductor's voice was soft. Mirrors show possibilities, not promises. What you become depends on the choices you make. Dreams, fears, hope, they all leave reflections. Which one will you follow? Myra clutched her golden ticket. Its glow steadied, pulsing against her palm. She turned back to the first mirror, the strong, confident girl. She whispered, I want to be her. The reflection nodded, as if agreeing. The darker mirror dimmed, its image fading into nothing but her own small reflection. Myra exhaled, her shoulders lighter. She glanced at the other passengers. Each of them faced their own mirrors, some laughing, some frowning, some quietly thoughtful. The cat, satisfied with its choice, strutted away with its whiskers high. The whistle blew. The mirrors rippled like water, then cleared, leaving only the passengers' true reflections once more. Words appeared in glowing letters across the largest mirror. Next stop, the carriage of wishes. Myra smiled faintly at her reflection, giving it a small nod. See you again someday, she whispered. Then she turned, golden ticket in hand, and followed the others toward the door shimmering with light. The next carriage glowed with a gentle golden light. When Myra stepped inside, she felt warmth wash over her, like stepping into a summer evening. The air shimmered, and tiny paper lanterns floated everywhere, drifting slowly toward the ceiling. Each lantern carried a soft flame inside, glowing in colors that shifted with every heartbeat. Passengers whispered as they walked among the lanterns. Some reached out and touched one gently. When they did, glowing words appeared across the paper. Short messages, like secrets written in light. Myra read a few as she passed. I wish for my brother to laugh again. I wish to see the ocean. I wish not to be afraid. Her chest tightened. These weren't just dreams. They were wishes, pieces of people's hearts. The conductor appeared, his smoky coat stirring the lantern light. His voice was soft, solemn. This is the carriage of wishes. Every traveler is allowed to write one. A wish must be honest, for the lanterns do not accept lies. He gestured, and a blank lantern drifted down to Myra's hands. It was small and warm, the paper thin as a whisper. A brush of light floated nearby, waiting for her to write. Myra stared at the empty lantern. So many wishes tumbled inside her head. She wanted adventures, she wanted courage, she wanted the train never to end. But as she pressed the glowing brush against the lantern, only one truth spilled out. I wish my mother could come home sooner. I wish she could rest. I wish we had more time together. Her throat ached. She finished writing and set the brush down. At once, the words shimmered across the paper, glowing brighter than she expected. The flame inside her lantern flickered and grew, shining steady and strong. She let it go. The lantern floated upward, joining the others, carrying her wish higher and higher until it was lost among the glowing sky above the carriage. For a moment, she felt lighter. Not because the wish had come true, but because she had finally given it shape. Around her, other passengers released their own lanterns. The ribbon-haired girl's lantern glowed pink with the wish to be seen and remembered. The boy with the stuffed bear wrote simply, "Never to lose my friend." Even the old man with the cloud beard released one that whispered, "Time enough to say goodbye." The carriage glowed brighter as the lanterns rose, filling the air with hope. Myra held her golden ticket close, its hum steady with her heartbeat. The conductor's eyes shone softly as he raised his hand. The whistle sounded, low and tender, like a sigh. The lanterns swirled together, forming an archway of light at the far end. Letters shimmered across it. Next stop, the engine room. Myra drew a breath. The heart of the dream train was ahead. She felt both nervous and ready, her wish still glowing in her chest. The door slid open with a deep rumble, and Myra stepped into the heart of the dream train. The engine room was vast, stretching farther than seemed possible inside a single carriage. Gears of silver and bronze turned slowly, glowing with starlight. Pipes carried streams of shimmering mist, humming like quiet voices. At the very center stood the engine itself, a great glass furnace filled with swirling light. It was not fire but dreams, glowing in colors too many to name: gold, violet, emerald, rose. The sound was steady at first, a deep thrum-thrum like a heartbeat. But as Myra walked closer, she noticed the glow flickering. The colors dimmed, the rhythm slowing. The train shuddered slightly, as though tired. The conductor stood near the furnace, his smoky figure almost solemn. This is the heart of the dream train. It runs not on coal or steam, but on the light of dreams. Without them, the journey cannot continue. Myra clutched her golden ticket. It pulsed faintly, matching the weakening rhythm of the engine. She stepped closer and saw that inside the furnace, some of the glowing streams had faded into gray. Passengers gathered around, whispering nervously. The ribbon-haired girl frowned, the old man with the cloud beard stroked his chin, and the boy hugged his stuffed bear tightly. Even the cat with spectacles seemed uneasy, its tail flicking. Myra's chest tightened. "Why is it fading?" she asked. The conductor turned his glowing eyes toward her. Dreams grow dim when travelers forget their hope, when they carry fear without balance, or when they stop believing their wishes matter. The engine must be fed with light. Without it, the dream train cannot reach the end of the journey. Myra looked down at her ticket. It glowed brighter than ever, carrying every moment of her journey. The pillows of comfort, the cake of balance, the bubbles of memory, the shadows she had faced, the wish she had released. All of it was written into the golden card. Her heart pounded. Can my ticket help? The conductor's smoky form bowed slightly. Every traveler's ticket carries their light. But yours burns strong, Myra. If you choose, you may offer it to the engine. It will brighten the way, for everyone. Myra hesitated. Without her ticket, would she still find her way home? Her mother's face flashed in her mind, tired but smiling. She thought of her wish, glowing in the lantern above. She stepped forward. I'll do it. The conductor's eyes softened. Bravery shines brightest when given, not kept. Myra held her ticket high. It pulsed once, twice, then burst into light. Golden threads streamed from it into the furnace. The engine roared, not with fire but with music. Hundreds of voices singing, laughter echoing, wishes glowing. The colors inside swirled brighter, stronger, until the whole room shone like dawn. The train shuddered, then surged forward, faster and steadier than before. The passengers gasped, their faces bathed in light. Myra felt warmth rush through her, though the ticket in her hand had dissolved into sparkles. The conductor placed a hand of smoke on her shoulder. You have given your dream, and in return, the train carries you. It will not forget. Myra smiled faintly, her eyes stinging with tears. She didn't feel empty without the ticket. She felt full, as if the light she gave had settled in her chest, glowing on its own. The whistle blew, clear and strong, ringing through the engine room. Letters of light formed above the great furnace. Final stop, the Sunrise Station. Myra's heart leapt. Dawn was near. The journey was almost over. The dream train raced faster than ever, its carriages glowing like lanterns in the night. Myra pressed her face to the window and saw the stars streaking past in rivers of light. Her chest hummed with the warmth of the engine, as if part of its glow now lived inside her. The passengers were quiet, each holding their memories close. The ribbon-haired girl braided strands of starlight between her fingers. The boy hugged his stuffed bear, humming softly. Even the cat with spectacles purred without reading, simply watching the sky. The conductor walked slowly down the aisle, his smoky coat trailing behind him. His glowing eyes met each traveler's gaze with kindness. When he reached Myra, he tipped his hat. Your courage has carried us well, young dreamer. Myra smiled shyly. Will I see the dream train again? The conductor's voice was gentle. Every dreamer finds their way back, when their heart is ready. The train does not forget. The whistle sounded, long and clear. Ahead, the darkness began to change. The endless night softened, paling into gentle shades of violet and pink. The stars dimmed as a golden horizon spread wide. The Sunrise Station appeared. It was not like any station Myra had seen before. Its platform was woven of dawn light, glowing softly underfoot. Great arches of rose-gold mist curved overhead, and lanterns shaped like suns swayed gently, casting warm rays across the travelers. Beyond the station, Myra saw the outline of her own world, the rooftops of her town, her little window waiting. The train slowed. Steam curled like ribbons of gold. One by one, the doors opened with a sigh. Passengers stepped out, each carrying a glow of their journey. The ribbon-haired girl waved at Myra before drifting away, her lantern-pink light following her. The boy smiled sleepily, his stuffed bear glowing faintly in its paws. Even the old man's cloudbeard shone with silver as he left. Myra stood at the doorway, her heart thumping. She turned to the conductor. "Thank you," she whispered. He bowed, his smoky form bending like mist in the wind. "No, Myra. Thank you. You gave your dream, and in return, you carry the light of many." Her eyes stung. She stepped onto the platform, and the warmth of dawn kissed her skin. She turned once more. The dream train shimmered, its golden carriages glowing in the soft light of morning. Slowly, it began to fade, becoming transparent until only the sound of its whistle lingered in the air, soft, like the memory of a lullaby. Myra blinked, and she was standing at her window again. The staircase of starlight was gone. Her bed was waiting, her stuffed rabbit sitting quietly on the pillow. Outside, the first bird sang as the sky blushed with sunrise. She climbed into bed, pulling the blanket up to her chin. For a moment, she thought it had all been a dream. But then she pressed her hand to her chest and felt it, the steady warmth of a light glowing inside her, gentle and strong. Myra closed her eyes, smiling. She was not afraid anymore. She had ridden the midnight dream train, and though the journey had ended, the dream would stay. And so, as the sun rose higher, Myra drifted into the softest sleep, carrying the promise of many journeys yet to come.